So I am very excited to chat with Nagina Abdullah. We are going to be talking about metabolism, talking about spices. Going to be an exciting conversation here, interesting conversation. And so let me go ahead and dive into Nagina's bio here, and then we'll get a little bit more of a background. So Nagina Abdullah is a weight loss coach for women in midlife and founder of the website masalabody.com. She teaches women to boost their metabolism by adding and combining metabolism boosting foods to reduce belly fat and overall weight gain in midlife. Nagina has a degree in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley and has helped over 1,500 midlife women successfully lose weight and create a lifestyle change. And thank you so much for joining us, Nagina.
I'm so excited to be here, Dr. Eric. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have this conversation. And I think a lot of people will find it to be fascinating, especially when you talk about some of the different spices. So I'm really excited about that. But
Mhm.
of course, you have a lot of other things to share too. So let's go ahead and if you could give a little bit more of your background. How did you start helping midlife women to increase their metabolism?
Yes, absolutely. Well, this is really a product of a personal transformation where I had struggled my entire life with getting healthy, with being at the weight that I wanted to be at a healthy weight, having control over my sugar cravings, and then actually creating a lifestyle versus going off and on diets, which I did for my entire life. And, I had tried every single diet out there from Weight Watchers to eating less and exercising a lot to Atkins to South Beach. And for all of those diets, I would lose some weight, but then I would put it back on pretty quickly after because I would just start doing all the things that I had restricted myself from for the weeks that it took me to lose the weight. And so after I had children, I actually was at my highest weight ever because I had the pregnancy weight from two children, and I also never had really gotten to a place where I was very satisfied with my overall balance of how I was managing my weight. And so that's where I reached into my background. I have a degree in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley, and I said, let me do my own research instead of reading magazines and reading just website posts because I no longer had the time to go on diets with two children, with a full-time career. I needed to lose the weight, feel good about myself, be healthy. And it was really about having more energy for myself and for my children for all the years to come. And so what I did is that I started researching that information, and I started finding there's foods that we can add to our diet instead of take away. And when you add foods, they boost your metabolism. There's other things that you can add, like certain spices that actually help you boost your metabolism and also make your food taste good. And so I started doing those things. I lost 40 pounds in 9 months. And this was not easy. Right now, when I'm saying it, I just said it in one moment, but it was a lifetime of transformation that happened in 9 months. And it was because I learned how to eat differently. And so that's where I started coaching women because a lot of people started asking me, how did I do this? How do I look more in shape after children? And everything was working really well. But then I hit midlife and things started changing. And I started realizing, oh my gosh, there was definitely something different happening. There was more belly fat. There was more plateaus. No matter what I ate or how much I exercised, it wouldn't come off. And so that's where I started looking more at blood sugar management, balancing what you're eating, looking at hormones. And then my weight was able to come down, also increasing muscle mass. So it's not even about weight, it's just about changing your body. And that's how I specialize in helping women in midlife now. I've helped over 1,500 women lose weight, gain strength, and actually create a healthy lifestyle, which is the most important of all.
Well, thanks for sharing. And I like that you said 40 pounds over 9 months, because some people might say, what, that's it? It took you 9 months to lose 40 pounds, but it really isn't healthy to try to lose. Like some people will say, well, I really want to lose 20 pounds in 1 month. I don't want to, but I think that's reasonable. You want people to have reasonable expectations and you want them to do it in a healthy fashion. Not to say that some people might lose more weight in that period of time or even shorter period of time. But again, to me, that sounds very realistic. Whereas if you said I lost 40 pounds in 2 months, again, not to say that can't happen. And you might have clients where that did happen, but again, you're being upfront and not coming up with a crazy number in a short duration of time. So appreciate your honesty.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is, a lot of times when someone has 40, 50 or more pounds to lose, even 30 pounds, it can seem pretty daunting. It can feel like, especially when you start doing things and it feels like the scale is moving so slowly, it feels like it's a long journey. But really setting yourself up for that by doing in increments of either 2 pounds or 5 pounds is really helpful. And then you do that. Like I lost the first 5 pounds. I couldn't believe it. Then I lost 10 pounds. And that was like where I started realizing this was a real journey that I was on. And it felt so easy. So I kept going. And then it just adds up. 10 pounds can turn into 20 pounds. It turns into 30 pounds and more. But it's just about getting started, but getting started in the right way where you can feel like you can keep doing this. Because once you get to your weight, the weight that you want, you don't want to start reversing all of the things that you had done to get there. You want to enjoy that journey, love what you're doing so that you can keep it up even when you're there.
Now, one thing you also mentioned is to improve metabolism by adding certain foods. So, not necessarily removing certain foods. I'm guessing though, if someone's eating a lot of inflammatory foods, you probably would recommend maybe cutting those out. Like if they're eating a lot of refined foods and sugars, eating fast food, maybe they could still lose weight even if they followed your recommendations. But I guess from an overall health perspective, would you still recommend for people to eat relatively clean?
Yeah, and so the way that I educate and that I teach people to make this lifestyle change is by focusing on what you can add, and then as a result, you don't have a craving for those processed foods or those inflammatory foods because you actually feel the difference in your body, and you don't want to feel like that anymore. So by adding the metabolism boosting foods, which we'll definitely talk about, the cravings for other things go away. Now, an example of what, how this works is that a lot of the inflammatory foods or unhealthy foods, they break down to sugar. So lots of carbs, they break down to sugars. That's the definition of what they are. They're just carbs, but they're positioned in a different way. They may not even be sweet. And so when you are eating foods that break down to sugar, sugar makes you want to have more sugar. And so if you're eating those foods that are not clean, that are breaking down to sugars, even if you're not eating sweet foods, your body is going to feel overwhelmed and craving more sugary foods. And it's really hard to get off the cycle. And so when you start introducing and leading with foods that don't break down to sugar as quickly or at all, then what happens is that your body doesn't want that anymore, because sugar is a drug. You give yourself a little bit and it wants more of it. But when you replace it with other really good foods for your gut, for your brain, for your metabolism, then it starts to become a very, very easy cycle where you actually don't even have those sugar cravings anymore.
So, do you recommend more of a lower carbohydrate diet or like a medium carbohydrate diet?
So I recommend, so overall, the most important part of carbs is that you're eating the right kinds of carbs. So the sources of carbs should be important. And the amount of it is going to vary with where you are in your journey. Now, when you are losing weight, you want to have more of these, what I call slimming carbs. And so slimming carbs are carbs that don't break down as quickly, like I was just mentioning. Instead, they break down slowly, so they're not elevating your blood sugar, because when your blood sugar is elevated, that's when you're storing fat. When your blood sugar is going up and down, then insulin is being released. It's taking that sugar, that excess sugar out of your bloodstream, and it's being stored as fat. So ideally, you want to keep your blood sugar levels even, and you can do that by eating carbs. Just eat slimming carbs. So slimming carbs are things like lentils. So lentils are amazing. They are carbs, but they are full of fiber, and they also have some protein in it. And that causes them to break down more slowly. So your blood sugar stays even. You can have the carbohydrates in your diet, but you're not feeling like you want more, because you're not feeling that up and down in energy. And it's also better for our stress levels that you're not going up and down. So lentils beans, high fiber bread like Ezekiel bread or even rye bread or sourdough bread are good options. And then also starchy veggies, things like zucchini, squash, along those lines, sweet potato. And then finally, what I call slimming grains, which are alternatives to rice. And they're things like buckwheat or a few others. Like buckwheat is really good. Farro is really good. And other things that look and feel like rice, but they're not breaking down as quickly. And so when you're in this weight loss mode, you do want to have really, you don't want to lead with carbs. You want to have a good amount. I recommend having carbs once to twice a day. Have it at lunch and have it either at dinner or at breakfast. Have about a half cup to a cup. And then your body is going to break it down slowly because these are slimming carbs. But you also won't be craving more carbs because you're going to be adding a lot of the other foods as well that we're talking about. They're anti-inflammatory.
So here's a question. If someone's looking to, like, if they're following, let's say, a paleo type diet, is it okay for them to, let's say, eat the starchy vegetables, but not eat some of these other slimming carbs like Ezekiel bread? I know it's healthier than other types of bread, but if they want to, if they're following a paleo diet, then they're going to be avoiding the grains, the Ezekiel bread. Can they focus on the starchy vegetables and some of the other foods you're going to mention?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They can absolutely do that. Really, carbs is something that is like a lever. If you want to have more, you can. You don't have to have more. A lot of people respond better to less carbs, but some people need a little bit more. But in general, you're not leading with carbs anyway. So carbs are coming from these healthier sources. And yes, you can absolutely get them from vegetables. And a lot of, over the course of the day, we get a lot of our carbs from vegetables, from if you're eating fruit, they're going to be definitely in your fruit because that's going to have more of the sugar. You're going to get them in different ways. But if you are wanting to have that extra serving of carbs, those are those alternatives that I talked about in terms of the slimming carbs. But you can use any source that you like. Yeah.
Yeah. Speak of fruit. So do you recommend just minimal fruit or no fruit?
So yeah, I recommend having fruit is something that you absolutely can have. I recommend low sugar fruit because then you're not getting that sweetness. You're not getting that breakdown of sugar and you're also not feeling the need for more sugar. So fruits like berries, especially strawberries, taste so good. Raspberries, blackberries, blueberries have a little more sugar than other berries, but if you do it in a mix, it's okay. Also, tangerines are lower sugar, and having an apple or a pear, if it's small, or having a half of it is really key. And then combining, if you're having apple or pear, which are higher sugar fruits, combining that with a healthy fat or a protein like peanut butter or nuts, because then that slows your blood sugar absorption and you're not getting that elevation of blood sugar. So having fruits is good. I really advocate having veggies with every single meal, but breakfast, have your fruit, but keep it on the low sugar fruit side and pair it with a protein or a healthy fat as part of your breakfast.
Okay. All right. That sounds good when it comes to the carbs. So how about protein? How much protein do you recommend people consuming on a daily basis?
So yes, protein is the number one food to add to boost your metabolism. And protein is going to solve so many problems. And really, most women are under eating protein. And, we do need a significant amount of protein. And you actually have to try to get that protein. Like you have to be diligent to have the right servings of protein and to have enough over the course of your day. And so, first of all, I'll talk about how much. But the number one thing is that if you add protein to every meal and then have one snack that has protein, you are going to feel such a decline in your sugar cravings and your cravings for all the unhealthy foods we were talking about earlier, whether it's processed foods, packaged foods, sweets, unhealthy fast burning carbs. you're actually no longer going to have those cravings. And that may seem unbelievable, but watch. This is the quickest way to switch over having an unhealthy diet to a healthy diet, is to add protein, and really start by adding it, because all the other things are going to naturally fall away. You will not feel like it. This is the number one thing that my clients say has helped them lose their first 15 pounds, is to start adding more protein at breakfast. That is the number one way, because that's an area that so many people skip, especially women are skipping for many reasons. Maybe because they're busy, maybe because they feel like if they eat less, they're going to lose weight, or because they're following an intermittent fasting diet, but they're not getting that protein in the morning. And that adds up over the course of the day. You're likely going to not have enough protein for your body. So, what I recommend in terms of protein is really to have 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per body weight. So what that means is if you're somebody that's around 150 pounds, that's having somewhere around, let's give it a little bit bigger range, 120 to 150 grams of protein. And you do have to try for that, but once you start doing it, your appetite is going to be reduced all across the day in other areas, and you're going to be craving that protein. And so, it's easy to start to get that protein if you start thinking about having 30 grams of protein at each meal. So having 30 grams at breakfast, which is something like 2 eggs and a cup of egg whites, and you just cook it together. You have a side of berries, or any of the other fruits that we talked about, or have like a breakfast salad, which is something like arugula with strawberries in it. Have your 2 eggs with a cup of egg whites. That gets you to 30 grams of protein. You can also do Greek yogurt, which has 20 grams of protein. There's Oikos 20 right now, which just came out, has 20 grams of protein, or cottage cheese. I love Good cottage cheese because they have almost 20 grams of protein there. So you're getting a good boost of it. But try to get to 30 by layering on different things. Maybe you have like 2 eggs and Greek yogurt. That can also be a really good way. So that's a good start to your day. But protein is so important. If you get this one thing, if you focus on anything, adding protein to your breakfast is going to get your metabolism going, and you're going to start to see your cravings actually shift, and you're not going to have to fight with yourself throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree with making sure to get enough protein, and usually I recommend like 75, at least 75% of one's, like for you're like pretty much 80% to 100% is what you're aiming for. So we're pretty close. So if someone's like 120 pounds, I would recommend them getting anywhere from 90 to 120 grams of protein. So we're pretty close with that. And then also I'll add, people could have leftover for breakfast. If someone's a vegan vegetarian, maybe a different story. But if someone eats meat and they're having whatever, beef, chicken for dinner, they could have leftovers for breakfast to make sure they get enough protein. If they're, for whatever reason, if they're not eating eggs, and I know a number of people in the community don't consume dairy, but I agree dairy could be a good source of protein for those who are eating dairy. So, but either way, protein, sufficient protein, definitely important, not only for curbing appetite, but also for muscle mass, for maintaining healthy muscle mass as well. And that's a big reason. You mentioned intermittent fasting. I'm definitely not against intermittent fasting, but one of the concerns is if someone has a very small eating window, they might not be able to get enough protein. And again, besides the curbing of the appetite, I'm concerned about them not maintaining a healthy muscle mass if they're, have like a 4-hour eating window or a 6-hour eating window.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, absolutely. So, let's touch on the protein increasing muscle mass. This is so key. This is why this is more important than ever for women in midlife, because in midlife, really around age 40, if even slightly before, our muscle mass starts rapidly declining. It's by multiple percentages a year, anywhere from 1% to 3% a year. And if you feel like you're at a place where you're stuck and what was working before wasn't working, A lot of this, there's a big hormone aspect to it, but the other aspect is because your muscle mass is declining, and that means your metabolism is declining because muscle is burning more calories than fat. So when your muscle is transitioning to fat, you might be at the same weight, but you're not able to lose it as much because you don't have the same metabolism. And so you can create that by building your muscle back up. And what's surprising is that you can actually rebuild muscle just by taking in protein, not even working out. Of course, working out is great. It's going to accelerate it. It's what you're going to need to add on to it at some point. But I have seen so much research of my clients who are simply adding the amount of protein that we talked about, and their muscle mass is increasing week after week. And so this is so important to keep your protein intake high. And then the other thing is that protein actually digests more slowly than other food. And that's part of the reason that you are not feeling as many cravings for sugar if you're eating protein, is because you're feeling more satisfied and full for longer with less calories, because that protein is digesting more slowly. So you're not hungry again. It didn't go through your system so quickly. And then, touching on intermittent fasting. So yeah, I have to say, I am actually, I would be an advocate only for the right person. And that actual person is a very small percentage of our population. If you're looking to feel more energy and to lose weight in a healthy way. And this is because I've seen intermittent fasting work well only if you are somebody that is significantly overeating and you really need to cut your calories over the course of the day, or you're binge eating at night and you need to kind of control that. But what's happening more often with women in midlife is that women are not eating enough to begin with. And that's because of the stories that we've been told for so many years that you have to eat less to lose weight. So we have this running story in our head that we have to eat less. And so skipping breakfast is an easy way to do that. But what's actually happening is you're staying stuck because you're not getting nearly the amount of calories that you actually need. Like, our body needs calories. We have to take care of ourselves with food and with eating the right amount. So when you eat the right kinds of food, that's going to help you lose weight versus trying to eat less of the calories that you actually need. Then you're just going to stay stuck because your metabolism has slowed because you're not giving your body enough to actually burn. You're just giving yourself enough to just barely survive. And that may be why you're not even feeling that much energy, because you're under eating.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most people who are struggling with losing weight, it's not a calorie problem. There are other issues. And I mean, many people who are listening to this have Hashimoto's. Some people have hyperthyroidism, which hyperthyroidism could go either way. When I dealt personally with hyperthyroidism and lost a lot of weight unintentionally, even though some people with hyperthyroidism actually gain weight. But arguably, that's more of the case with Hashimoto's, having low thyroid hormone. And even in those situations, balancing the thyroid hormone many times won't cause the person to lose weight. Same thing with caloric restriction, same thing with exercising. Again, I mean, obviously you want to watch what you want to be, you don't want to, as we mentioned earlier, overeat carbs and eat unhealthy foods. And you don't want to be a couch potato. And you want to make sure, for those who have low thyroid hormone, you want to make sure you have healthy thyroid hormone levels. But just there are a lot of other factors when it comes to losing weight. And again, we're talking about some of the factors too, not enough protein, and just making sure eating the right foods. And you mentioned the combining foods, spices. So I haven't had anybody, I don't think, talk about spices, at least not in great detail like you have on some of the other interviews. I definitely want you. I don't know if there's any other foods you want to talk about. If so, definitely feel free to do so. But I definitely want you to start talking about the spices as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, absolutely. The spices are so exciting and fun. I mean, it's one of the things that actually, if you could imagine losing weight could be fun, it can be. It actually can be. For me, when I lost 40 pounds, it was the most exciting moment of my life because I was loving what I was eating and I was seeing my waist shrink. And I was seeing my pants be able to fit me again. And I had more energy and I was loving what I was eating every day. And it was because of the spices. And so, the spices for me they come from my background. I am Indian. I grew up in a traditional Indian household where spices were like water to us. We had them with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was just what we did. And when I started learning and about how to get healthier when I was an adult, nothing that I saw out there had spices. It was all about like plain, as an example, plain chicken and broccoli with maybe a little bit of something on it. And for somebody that loves flavor and loves food, which is a lot of us, it was just impossible for me to be healthy because I felt that healthy equaled boring. And I really needed that excitement and that flavor and that pleasure in the food that I was eating. And so, when I had gone back and done the research, and which preceded my 40-pound weight loss, one of the other things I had done was I made it my own. And so I started adding the spices that I knew about from growing up with them. And so, this really accelerated my weight loss journey. I ate more than I was eating growing up. And my husband, who's not Indian, he also got healthier with me. And he just really stood by the fact that cayenne pepper helped him lose 20 pounds in the first month. Cause he's like, he was sweating. He felt that his weight was coming off whenever he added that cayenne pepper. So, spices have a lot of metabolism boosting effects, and they help your food taste really good. And so one of the first spices I recommend for people to try is one that we most all have in our kitchen cabinet. And so are all of the ones that I mentioned. They're very common. They're not hard to find. They're not exotic. And so this one is to use a spice that's sweet. And that's because we are, like, a lot of times when you're on this journey, we have a taste for sweet. So using a sweet spice, which is otherwise known as cinnamon, is a really great way to get started. And one of the ways that I first kickstarted my weight loss journey was that I started adding cinnamon to my coffee, and it took the place of my sugar or my Splenda. I was using an artificial sweetener, which there's a lot of studies and a lot of reasons that artificial sweeteners are keeping us addicted to sweet foods. And so you really want to replace that with something that's natural. And so, having cinnamon in my coffee helped me prevent the need for artificial sweetener, but it also helped me no longer need my creamers, like a French vanilla creamer that was so sweet. And those things you end up using more than you think. And it's not that those are causing you to keep your weight on, but it's causing you to have sugar cravings throughout the day. And that's really adding up over the course of the day. So putting some cinnamon in your coffee, you can add some almond milk to it, or add some milk if you want to have some type of creaminess in there. Milk doesn't have as much sugar as the creamers does, or use an almond milk creamer. That is a really great start to your day. And so cinnamon actually helps you lower your blood sugar. So the spikes we were talking about going up and down, if you add cinnamon, you actually prevent those spikes from happening. And as a result, you store less fat, and it starts in your belly. You store less belly fat. So when I started doing this, I was so excited because I realized how good my coffee was, but then I started seeing the benefits and the effects on my body, because I not only was storing less fat in the morning, but it was it was giving me the sweetness that I needed. And so I wasn't having sugar cravings. It was preventing future sugar cravings. So starting with cinnamon and really getting proactive with adding that into your coffee, tea, or on top of your fruit is also going to help you counteract some of those blood sugar spikes. So cinnamon is a top one to get started with. You can really use any cinnamon. There's a lot of research around which one you should use, which we could always talk about. But overall, it doesn't really matter unless you're using large quantities. So get started with the cinnamon that you have. Number two, a really great spice to add is a spice that I call it's a neutral taste. And this is turmeric. Turmeric is very popular right now. A lot of people are using it for anti-inflammation, and that's exactly what it does. It's anti-inflammatory. Now, you want to combine it with black pepper because that increases the absorption of turmeric by 2,000% in your body, or the compound called curcumin, which is in turmeric. It increases that absorption. And so, let me tell you a little bit about turmeric. It is a gorgeous, bright yellow color, and it actually has hardly any taste. It is very neutral in its taste. And so you can really add it to so many things, but a natural blend is to add it to your eggs. If you eat eggs, have about just a half teaspoon, add that to your eggs. Turmeric is yellow, it goes with eggs, and it doesn't really add too much of a different flavor. It has a slightly earthy taste. It's nowhere near spicy. It's extremely neutral in its taste. And so that's really good. You can also add it if you're somebody that has a protein shake. If you go to the gym and you work out, adding it to your protein shake, doing a half teaspoon is going to help your muscles relax even more because it's anti-inflammatory. So you're going to really feel that relaxation. Or making a tea at night with turmeric tea is such an amazing replacement to something like wine. If you have a wine habit at night, have turmeric tea instead. It actually relaxes your entire body because it's so anti-inflammatory. And it's great if you can make your own. I have a turmeric tea recipe on my website, but you can also just buy a turmeric tea type of tea bag from anywhere that you can find it. And Trader Joe's has some really good ones. So turmeric is a second one. And I'll share one more, Dr. Eric, if that works, that is kind of a complement to these other two. And that is a spicy spice, or the spice that my husband credits for helping him lose 20 pounds in the first month of eating this way. And that is cayenne pepper. And so cayenne pepper has a compound called capsaicin in it. And this compound capsaicin is in most of the spicy spices. So things like, cayenne pepper, red chili powder, if you have jalapenos, or if you have serrano peppers, that is the compound in it. And so if you want a milder version to get started with, you can try paprika, which has a little bit less capsaicin, but it's a little spicy and a little sweet. So it's a good way to get your foot in the door. And you actually do learn how to eat more spicy food when you start eating some spicy food. Your taste buds open up. And so what cayenne pepper does is that cayenne pepper actually increases calorie burning. It increases your metabolism. And so you're burning more calories when you add this on. You can also use it in the form of red chili flakes, which are those things that we see at pizza places. And those are a little milder as well. So it increases calorie burning. It adds flavor. A really good way to use cayenne pepper is just to add it on any protein you're having, whether that is chicken, whether you have fish, or on your veggies, and add just a sprinkle on, just whatever your preference is. Even doing 1/8 of a teaspoon or less is really, really great because you're getting some of those benefits and you're also getting the flavor. So, starting with cinnamon, a sweet spice, you get to lower your blood sugar, store less fat. When you use turmeric, you're going to lower your inflammation. And then when you use cayenne pepper is going to help you increase your metabolism. And so these are all different elements of losing weight in a healthy way that's sustainable, and really using natural ingredients to do that.
All right. So you said half a teaspoon of turmeric, and then with cayenne pepper, just like a sprinkle, maybe up to 1/8 of a teaspoon. And did you say with cinnamon, is it half a teaspoon with cinnamon, similar to turmeric, or?
Oh yes, so that's a good question. So for cinnamon, you just want to have a sprinkle, and that is because cinnamon can actually get spicy if you eat if you have too much. So, if you want to have something to measure it with, 1/8 teaspoon is the most that you should have, because it starts to get spicy after that. I really recommend that you just sprinkle some on, and don't go over what 1/8 teaspoon would be, because then the flavor shifts. And then also, if you're putting it in your coffee, just note you don't even have to mix it in. You can just sprinkle it on top and drink it. It doesn't always mix in as well. So just having a sprinkle of it is great.
Okay, so cinnamon, turmeric, cayenne pepper. And then I heard you on another interview talk about using spices to make your veggies taste better, because there are people who just don't enjoy eating vegetables. And so do you use the same spice? I mean, I imagine you're probably not using cinnamon on your vegetables. I could be wrong, but what what spices do you use on your vegetables to make them taste good?
Yes, and this is so important to use it on your vegetables because vegetables are one of the secret ways to keep yourself full and also give your body the nutrients that it needs without adding a lot of extra sugar or a lot of extra calories that are above and beyond what your body needs. And because vegetables have so much fiber in them, when you pair them with protein and you have vegetables and you have protein as 50% of your plate for protein and 40 to 50% for vegetables, you're really going to have a lower appetite for other foods, but you're giving your body what it needs. You're taking care of your body with the right foods. So one of the core terms that I talk about is called tasty veggies, because we all know we're supposed to eat veggies, but the biggest reason many people don't is because they just don't like the taste of it, or they don't love the taste of it. Imagine if you were able to get to a place where you're craving vegetables, where your body is needing vegetables, where if there's a plate of breads and other carbs and protein and veggies, you go for the veggies first. Like that will happen when you start adding this amount of veggies to your diet. But the way to do it is to have them be tasty. And the best way is to add these spices. The other way is to roast your vegetables. They're very tasty when you put them in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes on a sheet pan. Just spray the sheet pan with a cooking spray because the sweetness comes out from the veggies. So some really good spice blends that I recommend are to add either, so some of the ones we talked about, definitely turmeric is something you can add on there because you're getting the anti-inflammatory benefits. Add that black pepper with it. You can add cayenne pepper. You can also do what I love, which is what I call a belly fat burning blend. And that is cumin. When you add, we can talk about the amounts. It depends on the amount of veggies you have, but cumin, coriander, salt, and pepper. So cumin has been proven to burn belly fat in multiple studies, that if you're adding cumin to your day, you're going to burn more belly fat than if you weren't. Of course, you do need to eat these foods that we're talking about as well. Coriander is de-bloating, so it reduces water retention, and so that's really good. And cumin is a smoky flavor. Coriander is a fresh, tangy flavor. They're both neutral in terms of heat. And so you're really getting a nice complement when you do like a cumin, coriander, sea salt, which is a little healthier salt, and then black pepper. That is a really great combo. And you can also add turmeric to that if you want. You can add cayenne pepper if you want some heat to that. So those are some levers that you can pull. So those are some really great ones. If you want to have a couple kind of blends that you don't have to add separate things, I recommend using lemon pepper. Lemon pepper is just like a lemon as well as pepper. Have that with some salt, and it's really, really refreshing. And because even black pepper actually helps you burn more calories than you would in a 20-minute walk. And so having black pepper is really good. And then in addition, another spice blend is called garam masala. It is an Indian blend, but you can find it everywhere at every single grocery store. And it has a combo of a lot of the spices we talked about. It has some coriander. It may have cumin, depending on that one. It has cinnamon, which actually goes well with it. And it has a little bit of cloves. And so it nicely goes on everything. It's like a go-to spice blend. And so you just want to, put your veggies down on a sheet pan, spray it with cooking spray, like I mentioned, and then just put a blend of this. You could do about 2 tablespoons total. Like if you put like a little bit of, like if you put like a teaspoon, like 3/4 to 1 teaspoon of each of those spices that I told you about. So you get to like 1 to 2 tablespoons. You could sprinkle a little bit of olive oil on these veggies and then add the spices on and just mix it with your hands if you want, if you are able to do that. And veggies that are really good are things like asparagus, red pepper, like red bell pepper, green bell pepper, broccoli. And if you really want to go in a de-bloating direction, a really good combo is doing asparagus and then adding coriander, salt, and pepper on that, because asparagus is very de-bloating in that it reduces water retention, and so is coriander. So if you mix those two things, and if you have that once a day for 3 days, you're going to notice your de-bloating is going down. In fact, you're going to immediately need to go to the bathroom like soon after you have that meal, even if you didn't drink anything, because it's pushing water out of your system. So This is real science. It's like chemistry in our bodies. And we can use it to help ourselves get our metabolism high, slim down, make our food taste good. And all of those are important because we want our food to taste good in order to keep this being a sustainable lifestyle.
Well, that was amazing. So that I really enjoyed that conversation with spices. Like I said, I don't think anybody has really focused on some of the different spices. So glad that you touched upon them. And like I mentioned, there have been over the years so many people didn't want to eat vegetables and just said, "Can I have a veggie powder?" You know, those powders where they have the veggies, and I have to try to tell them, well, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not the same as eating vegetables. And I think it's safe to say that many people just haven't tried to get creative with the cooking. And again, to be fair, it's not like I'm an amazing chef and that I'm creative, but it doesn't take a lot of creativity when adding spices. I mean, I have learned that, and I use a number of ones you mentioned. I actually don't use cayenne pepper. I do use paprika, so maybe
Mhm.
I'll try to get a little bit more daring, add some cayenne pepper. Uh,
Mhm.
to my food, and coriander, I use that, and oregano's, which you didn't mention, but oregano, thyme. So yeah, I
Yes.
again, it can make a big difference adding some of these spices as well as some others. So yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yes, absolutely. And oregano is such a great flavor booster. It's so good. It goes well with so many things. Same with thyme. All of the spices that we're adding, they have benefits to them. So they're really good. And this is kind of comes back to my concept of adding more, like adding more instead of taking away. It's more about adding more protein, adding more veggies, adding more spices, making it taste delicious. And then naturally, your body's not going to crave the foods that were keeping you stuck and keeping you feeling low energy. It will just naturally start to transition when you're consistent with this.
Wonderful. Anything else that you wanted to discuss, or anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you about boosting metabolism?
Well, we talked about so many things, so that's so great. But I think I could maybe just touch on a bit more of the food combining in terms of like how to combine foods, just for a moment. And I mentioned that if you're going to have a higher sugar fruit, to pair it with peanut butter or a nut or nuts or a protein. And so, really keeping that in mind when you are going to have a carb or a sugar, definitely not having it alone. So one of the biggest things I see is like, women will grab a banana and run. Well, just have what I recommend is to have that with some peanut butter, but have half of the banana because you're going to be eating more with the peanut butter, and so you're going to be really slowing your blood sugar from absorbing. You're going to be slowing your blood sugar spikes, and so as a result, you're not going to be storing as much fat, and you're not going to need as much of that banana. You're not going to it really because you have something else as well. So pairing that, the other thing is, when you're eating something like pizza or spaghetti, you don't have to not eat pizza or spaghetti. You don't have to avoid those. What you can do though, is that you can make sure that you're having a protein with it. And you're also having greens with it. So have a salad. Now what that does, it's going to lower your blood sugar spikes. Instead of your blood sugar going up and then coming down, it's not going to go up as much. So it's not going to need to come down as much, which means that you're not storing as much fat. So a really key way, to do this is not to say, oh, I don't ever get to have pizza or I don't ever get to have pasta. Instead, having your pizza with some protein on it. So if you eat meat, having protein with it, or you could have a protein shake on the side if you don't eat meat, or having meatballs, or it could even be vegan meatballs with your spaghetti, and then having a salad first. So like when my family orders pizza, a lot of times I make sure that I have my salad. I order a salad. I have some, I'll get the salad. It could be a seafood salad. Then you have protein in the salad. And then I'll have 1 or 2 pieces of pizza versus if I was only having pizza, I would have had 3 or 4 pieces of pizza. And so you really adjust naturally, but then you're not getting as much of that spike. So just in general, think about always adding on a protein or a healthy fat, but then also having some greens if it makes sense for that meal, and then having your carb or your sugar. And you're going to see it's going to make a lot of difference. It's just about educating yourself and understanding what these foods are and how to eat them together.
I always love talking about pizza. Now, I will say that many of the people I work with, I tell them to take a break from pizza and pasta while healing. But on a wellness basis, I can say that I never eat pizza, usually like a cauliflower crust pizza. And then I do add protein too. In the past, I just like just cheese, but then realized that's a good way to, like you mentioned, adding some chicken on there, for example, is something that I try to do. So yeah, you could definitely get some protein when someone is eating pizza. And again, for those who aren't eating pizza now, maybe in the future, if and when you reintroduce pizza, definitely try to have some protein as toppings, whether it's chicken or something else. Well, you did cover a lot of information and really appreciate everything that you shared. And Nagina, can you tell people how they can find out more about you? And also, I know you have an upcoming 5-day Metabolism Boost event. So if you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you can find me at my website, masalabody.com. And that's where I have lots of blog posts as well as a lot of success stories. If you click on success stories of other women in midlife, women in their 40s through their 70s who have lost a significant amount of weight. And you'll hear about how it was so doable and sustainable. And it's now a lifestyle. It's not a diet. And I would love to invite you to my upcoming 5-day Metabolism Boost, where I'm going to be teaching every day for 5 days in a live workshop. It's completely free. I'm going to be teaching how to boost your metabolism. And the first day is about creating your metabolism boosting morning routine. So I'm going to talk about how to get your day started, what to add to your morning so that you get your metabolism boost going immediately. I'm also going to be talking about the 4-part fat burning food framework, where I teach you exactly how to pair your foods and the quantities of foods that you need for lunch and dinner. And then I'm going to be talking about how to get off sugar without feeling tired or restricted, and show you how to combine your foods and how to really prevent those blood sugar spikes so that you can store as little fat as possible and really work on getting leaner and getting stronger. And so I'm so excited for that 5-day Metabolism Boost coming up so soon. And I know the link is below in the text and in the comments.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we'll include the link in the show notes, not only for the Metabolism Boost event, but then also your website. And yeah, thank you so much. This was great. Just really enjoy this conversation. And I found some of the information, especially again the spices. Just really love the spices. And like I said, always enjoy talking about pizza as well. So we don't talk too much about pizza on this podcast, but sometimes we do. And again, thank you so much, Nagina. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk about boosting metabolism.
Thank you.
All right. So if there are questions, and again, for those who are on YouTube and Facebook, well, of course, make sure that this is being recorded for my podcast. So that's why I always mention show notes when doing these live, but there are no show notes in Facebook and in YouTube. So we put it in the comments. So we'll make sure to I'll make sure to put the links to Nagina's upcoming events and our website. So, but if there are questions that you have about boosting metabolism or spices, now's the time. Nagina has a few minutes. She said to answer questions. If not, that's okay too. But any questions? Yeah, I again the spices. I'll admit, years ago, I didn't really add any spices, and so when it comes to vegetables, one thing we didn't mention, which I don't know if it really falls into the spice category, garlic. Just
Yep.
I mean, even just adding garlic to vegetables, and I mean, really, we add in our family like garlic to everything. Just but then yeah, we
Nice.
mentioned it. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah,
but
garlic is so good. Garlic is amazing. That's a really great thing to do. If you can put fresh garlic, it's the best. But if you want a shortcut, you could always use garlic powder. And along those lines is another spice slash herb, which is ginger. And ginger is something that you can add to like stews, chili beans, because it really cuts the gas. Actually, many people may not know that it can cut the gas in beans. So if you add that to the cooking process, it takes that away. But the other, the amazing benefit also of ginger is that it increases digestion. So you probably have heard of a ginger tea. That's because post meals, you want to increase your digestion, and you really feel that. So yes.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the tea. So I like ginger tea. You mentioned turmeric tea, which I haven't made my own yet. I usually get Organic India. I don't know if you're familiar with that brand.
Yes.
I like their teas, but I'm going to check out. You said on your website you have a turmeric tea recipe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll definitely do
Absolutely.
that.
It's so relaxing to when you drink that, it just takes over your whole body and you feel so relaxed. I really, really think it's much better than wine in terms of relaxing, because it's natural. You don't get that hangover, but you also feel more relaxed than you do when you're drinking wine. So it's very amazing at night, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't tried drinking at night. Usually, I guess I'm concerned about waking up in the middle of the night to make a restroom run. So I usually drink a few cups of herbal tea during the day, but maybe one day I'll have some turmeric tea right before going to bed and just see how I feel. So
Yeah, but having it in the afternoon is great too, especially when you're just like ready for that. You just need that little extra push, but then also you could feel a little bit relaxed too.
yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. Doesn't look like we have questions, which is fine. Again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. And really, again, it was great having this conversation, Nagina. Make sure you check out Nagina's 5-day Metabolism Boost events. And like I said, I will make sure to put the links in the comments for both YouTube and Facebook. And hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. And same with you, Nagina. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day as well.
Thank you.